Today I wanted to go over whether or not Google is controlling your brand messaging. Control all aspects of your own messaging because you need precision in your messaging. And I think anything less than exactly what you want it to be just doesn't cut it. Hi, this is Jason. I'm a client manager with Solutions 8, and today I wanted to go over whether or not Google is controlling your brand messaging, and specifically whether or not the feature of automatically created assets is doing that. And I'll show you towards the end how to check that and turn them on or off, depending on what you want. But for now, just take a few minutes to talk about why you may or you may not want to use them. Basically, the pros and the cons. So with automatically created assets, it's just like what it sounds like what it is. It's where you just let Google take charge of all these things and you let it create them automatically, largely based on the content of your landing page. Although Google will consider other factors as well. But if you're weighing the pros and cons, I would say the first thing in terms of pros is that Google probably takes the more is more approach as opposed to less is more. In other words, they can generate a lot of assets automatically, a lot of headlines, a lot of descriptions, extensions, callouts, and so on. So the variety of options is massive, and it's going to be much more than we can ever do ourselves. And so that should give you more chances of arriving at winning ad copy over time with more varieties of them that are working, because you're just throwing a lot more out there, and you'll eventually be able to see what works, and the algorithm will recognize that and serve those ad combinations more often. Another potential positive or a pro is that you can save time. And this is especially true with a large account where you have a lot of campaigns, you have a lot of ad groups, you have a lot of ads in them with a lot of ad copy to write and extensions to customize and put all that in there. So it could be an awful lot of work if you manually have to set these up automatically. So yeah, the time savings is potentially a big selling point here. And for business owners who are trying to run their own ads, if you've never run them before, you're likely to say, "Hey, great, less new stuff I have to learn, less work to do. So let's just let Google take care of it, like Google does with a lot of things, and so we can just get back to running our business." And I think that's one of the appeals. Now, maybe you don't want to deal with all the the hand wringing that often goes into the creative process of going over your ad copy over and over again, painstakingly trying to get it right. And since this feature is supposed to pull from your landing page, which you've probably already painstakingly written, you can reasonably assume that Google can figure out the best combination of assets to serve ads. And another potential pro, I think, is that you get fresh ad copy, and you avoid the possibility of ad fatigue. And now, ad fatigue isn't really a huge problem when you're focusing heavily on cold traffic, but if you're targeting audiences of past customers that you're trying to bring back, then you'll have to update that ad copy again from time to time to make sure people aren't seeing that audience isn't seeing the same ads over and over again. And ACAs can help you do that. So, and those are just a few of the pros that I see. And there are some downsides or cons too, because no algorithm is perfect. For one, you're literally giving up. If you do this, you're literally giving up all control. The lack of control, I think, can easily lead to inconsistency, even sometimes word and sentence awkwardness in terms of the tone of the words or just the voice that comes out. And that might not be quite in line with what you want in terms of your brand messaging. And you run the risk of relevance issues, possibly syntax errors, or even without errors, they can just sometimes get formulaic. There's a risk of that and start to lean too heavily into cliches or impersonal messaging. And that can be problematic for businesses wanting to really connect with their potential audience. And when errors like those happen, ones that didn't have to happen, that can really stand in the way of your ability to do that and connect with your audiences that you need to connect with really quickly. Another major con is money. You'll recall how I mentioned a moment ago that one of the big positives was that there's this massive combination of assets that can be created, more than we can ever come up with. And that's true, but the flip side of the coin is that in order to test a lot of combinations, there's also a lot of budget that's going to need to be used up in testing all of those possible combinations, a myriad of combinations, and that costs money to discover what works best when they're deploying a lot of options. So this is especially true in competitive industries. But as a business owner, you might not want or be able to test things on a variety of ad copies and combinations of assets on a nearly or seemingly unlimited basis. And you might not want to open the brand up to all kinds of messaging possibilities, because you could also run the risk of going off brand fairly easily that way. Most brands that do well, they communicate personally, they communicate succinctly and briefly. And ACAs aren't necessarily set up that way. So ultimately, you're running a risk in terms of letting the AI just be in charge of your prospective customer experience, your audience experience, and the feeling that you generate in your audience towards your brand. That's what it comes down to. So should you use them? I would say that in covering this the pros and cons list, I think the cons outweigh the pros, and maybe in a small number of limited circumstances, they can overcome some major problems for some businesses. But generally, we found that the results of automatically created assets are less than desirable when you consider all the small things that can go wrong. And even when you have some aspects of them working well, you'll also have other aspects possibly not working so well, all in the same ad. For example, maybe you see that Google had no problem creating great headlines and descriptions, but the site links might be a little off, or the call outs could sound awkward or something like that. So, I mean, ultimately, assets in your ads are a core component of your brand messaging efforts in any paid campaign. And these ads are often the first time people get to know anything at all about your brand, and a good first impression is very important. So you really want it to be, you want it to be right. You want the messaging to be right. You want the messaging to be on point. You just want it to be good, because messaging really matters. So you might be tempted, if you're a business owner who's never run your own ads before, to just let Google do this. And even when it works fine, which it often will, ultimately think about it this way: is who knows your business better than you? And the answer, of course, is no one. And that includes a machine learning tool. So while there are no absolutes to anything really with Google Ads, there are general rules. For us, the bottom line is that in most cases, you usually want to turn off ACAs and control all aspects of your own messaging, because you need precision in your messaging. And I think anything less than exactly what you want it to be just doesn't cut it. So we would rather not leave this feature to chance, hoping the AI gets it right, even though they usually probably will. We'd rather just do the work of making sure we get the messaging right from the beginning. So anyway, let's go to the settings here, and I'll show you how to set them up to be turned off in a second. But if you're just in the assets section here, you go to the left here, and you'll see that this is the main section here. And under source, what you want to do is just look. You'll either see advertiser, or it'll say automatically created. And as you can see here, we have advertiser in all of them, and that just means that we're not using ACAs in this account. Now, we usually want to turn them off at the account level, so we need to go to advanced settings, and Google actually makes that pretty well hidden. So I'll just show you now how to do that. And you just come up over to the right-hand side, far right-hand side, and you see more in the three buttons. And we'll click that and click account level automated assets. And we'll select that same thing again, because this isn't really where we want to be. Now we'll get to select advanced settings. So you'll see here we have them all turned off except for one, and that is the seller ratings. We think that's pretty much one exception. It's fine to leave that on. But here's where you control Google's level of control over all of these assets: site links, call outs, snippets, and all sorts of other things. So, and here are two new ones at the bottom, the dynamic business names and the business logos. I think most likely your account will, when these were introduced not too long ago, in many accounts they probably will default to being turned on. So you just want to choose to turn those off. But all you need to do here to control any of them is just sort of go over to the right-hand side, select the down arrow, and you choose on or off. You don't have to, well, I guess you probably do once you change it, but and then save it. And so make sure you save everything. And The other thing to note here is that if you do decide for whatever reason you want to try to experiment with them in just one campaign, like right here we're doing account level turning off, but we would leave them all on, and then you would go to just your settings in one of these other account. Excuse me. You go to the settings in a specific campaign, and in the settings, you could go in here and near the bottom here, you would just under automatically created assets for the campaign types that have them. We have it off here, but here you could turn it on. That's how you could control it to make sure that you would get it as an option just for one campaign type if you're inclined to try that. So yeah, I hope that helps, and thanks for watching.
Hi everyone, Regina here with Solutions 8. We're going to talk about brand campaigns today and how to get the cost per click down. So brand campaign, just so everyone knows, is a campaign where you're just targeting people who are already looking for you. So someone who's looking for the name